Whenever Roc Marciano drops a project, it's kind of a big deal. But when it's Roc Marci over Preemo production, it's an even bigger deal. What is good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Muff. If you are rocking with this content, make sure to smash that like button. Also subscribe if you haven't. But today, I'm going to be hitting y'all with my thoughts on this new one from Roc Marciano and DJ Premier entitled The Coldest Profession. So this is the Underground King Roc Marciano's first album since The Skeleton Key, produced by The Alchemist last year. Now, obviously, this release, even though it didn't have an insane rollout, has been on a lot of folks' radar, especially since the Armani Section single have been released. And of course, DJ Premier is one of the reasons why, as he is an all-time producer great. And it has been a long time since he's fully produced a project for any artist. So as a result, many of us have looked to this project to sort of give us a better idea or indication where DJ Premier's production is currently at in 2025. Because later on in the year, the collab with Nas is scheduled to drop. And the expectations we already know are going to be through the roof. So to many, even though this is a Roc Marci project and not a Nas one, they will look to this EP possibly as an appetizer to the Nas release, right or wrong. But it's just 8 tracks under the 20-minute mark. The Coldest Profession is a quick listen. But with that being said, let me go ahead and just hit y'all with that track-by-track breakdown. The opener, Arrival, is just an intro with some words from Premier over a cinematic beat. He's just explaining how the project came about, plain and simple. Now, track 2, Armani Section, was the first single, and I enjoyed it a lot. I think it contains one of DJ Premier's more luxurious beats in a while. The Big, the Nas, the Slick Rick, and Lil Kim scratches were fire, and Roc Marci painted a movie-like picture. Not only with his insane wordplay, but there are a lot of those high-end fashion references and some ultra lavish braggadocio from Roc that just might have some folks in their feelings, especially if they want to live the lifestyle of Roc Marci and can't afford it. But yeah, this track just feels like the soundtrack for a Kingpin superhero, and it's still the best song, I'd say, on The Coldest Profession. Now, the following, Prayer Hands, was released as the second single, and it had a polarizing reception, even a negative response from what I saw online. You have this off-kilter horn loop that, for me at least, still screamed Gangstar. There was great scratching, of course, but the drums, yes, the drums. A lot may have wanted just a little bit more from the drums than we actually got. Because when I first heard this as a lone single, I thought the drums weren't quite up to par for a Premier beat. However, strangely enough, in the context of this album, this track grew on me considerably. I mean, it's upbeat, it's jazzy, and Roc Marci, he bodied it with lines like, the 40 cows the length of an eagle's wingspan. I'm never winging it. I'm a thinking man, me and Preem. We in the town car, we Lincoln fam. And these type of bars is just what Roc Marci excels at. And I did learn a little bit more about him, that, you know, he's not someone to just wing it. He's more of a contemplative thinking man, but I kind of figured that already anyway. Things do take on more of a sinister twist with Good to Go. What you have here is an eerie, minimalist piano loop, solid drums, and EPMD scratches that make it pop. I also thought the faint string section reminded me of classic Preemo. And Roc Marciano, he came through with some vivid imagery like theme music in a haunted crack house, a G-Pack stashed in a couch, about half an ounce, a fiend passed out with a black and mild. That's quite the visual. So yeah, I couldn't find really any faults here, but perhaps some may take issue with the drums. Up next is Glory Hole, and I think this has another polarizing instrumental, but I personally enjoyed it. The loop is minimalist as hell, but it's funky and somehow still suggested DJ Premier to my ears. But the most impressive part here was not the instrumental, it was Roc Marci's portion. With his flow, he simply left Earth. Yeah, this was probably a subtle track for some, but I could really connect with the fly, funky blaxploitation vibes here. Right after is the gem, Roc Markable, and it's likely to be most people's favorite, and I completely understand why. You have what is more of a signature Preemo production, one that does harken back to his formula for more of the dreamy, majestic soundscapes. And the scratching here was flawlessly executed. There is a vintage quality to this as well that made it dope. And Roc Marci had the jewels. Don't let your feelings get you tricked out your spot. Them dudes that with you, not willing to die, especially over some hip hop. This is a killing that I exhibit, but not an episode of Pimp My Ride. So Roc Markable was one of those ones. The second to last track is Travel Fox, and what you have here is a quirky but still groovy beat that fits Roc Marci like a glove, and I consider this to be a highlight. You know, it's still on the experimental oddball side sonically, but also rugged enough to sound like Preemo had a hand in it. And there was more slick wordplay from Roc, like made a couple coins on my Donald Goins shit. Homeboy talking oil slick. Eventually sleep with the koi fish, oysters, and shrimp. I did all of this with my ballpoint pen. And of course, Roc Marci is not the first MC to reference Donald Goins, but you can tell in his music that he was heavily influenced by him, and I would urge you to check out some of his books if you already haven't. Then this project closes out with Execution Style, and it's the least Preemo sounding instrumental here. In fact, the only thing that lets you know DJ Premier was a part of this track was the Raekwon scratching, and maybe you could say the icy string section, which did give you that cold, wintry morning flavor. But you did have a drumless instrumental with this elegant guitar loop. Doesn't scream DJ Premier, but it is the longest song, and Roc Marci was sliding on the lyrical tip. So overall, I'm gonna give this project a rating of a solid to a strong 4 mics. To answer my question in the title, was it really that bad? For me, no, not at all. Personally, I found this to be an enjoyable, eclectic, short listen. One where Roc Marci sounded his most rejuvenated, his most animated, and probably his hungriest in a while. I would even go as far as saying that Roc Marciano's performance was close to flawless, especially for the kind of music he's making. So the only issue I would imagine would be the production for some people. And while to an extent I do understand, I also don't entirely. And I say that because yes, I agree, Preemo's drums don't hit as hard these days, but they really haven't for quite some time. Maybe my expectations weren't super high, but I thought there was still enough of his sound present on this project for me to be okay with things. And there's also the reality that we don't really know what direction Preemo and Roc wanted to go with this project. We weren't in the studio, so we can only imagine. Perhaps DJ Premier was insistent on tailoring his beats to fit Roc Marci's style. Who knows? Maybe DJ Premier, viewed this as an opportunity to give Roc that contemporary sound, so it ultimately would be tailored to fit it. Maybe not, though. Maybe Preemo is saving his better beats for Nas. That could also be a possibility. That would be a little messed up, though. Or maybe Roc Marci picked these instrumentals and left some of the more classic signature Preemo sounds on the table. That's also possible. Look, I'm also aware that DJ Premier is probably capable of more, even in 2025. But even with that thought, I would be lying to y'all if I said I was disappointed in this project or that I thought it was trash. Sure, Roc Marci was definitely the MVP here, but there was still evidence that Preemo hasn't completely lost it as many may have feared. I would also say that even if you did want a lot more from this production, the reality was there was still a lot of great rapping and great flows on this tape. So unless you just don't like Roc Marci, this project couldn't be all that bad. My favorite tracks include Armani Section, Prayer Hands, Good to Go, Glory Hole, Rock, Markable, and Travel Fox. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. It's your boy Mixtape Mob. I am signing out, but as always, it's peace and blessings. Roc Marci, DJ Premier, the Coldest Profession, 1.